So today we're going to do the Linux fundamentals part 2. Check out the first part so you can get more understanding. And yeah, let's dive into it. Um, Introduction. Welcome to the second part of the reworked Linux fundamentals series. We'll be applying knowledge from the first installment, so make sure y'all go check that out. This room we're going to be unlocking potential of your first few commands, introducing flags, arguments, advance your knowledge in file system, perform some useful commands such as copying, moving files, discover how to access a file and folders, and manage how we can determine our access. In running first few scripts. Alright, so we're going to deploy the machine, right? This will be the actual machine. So you deploy the machine and then you start the attack box. I don't know if this room is free. Maybe not. Alright. In fact, in browser, usually the exact same protocol that we're going to be using today. This protocol called Secure Shell or SSH, short for the common means of connecting and interacting with the command line. Remote. We'll be deploying 2 machines in this room, your Linux machine and tryhackme attack box, right? Secure Shell or SSH is simply a protocol between devices in an encrypted form using cryptograph. Anywho, any input we send in human readable format is encrypted for traveling over a network where it's then unencrypted once it reaches the remote machine, such as the diagram. So we can see it. My computer, you do hello world, the internet gets encrypted, then the Linux server, it's gonna show hello world, right? You can learn the various types of encryptions on tryhackme room, but for now we only need to understand SSH allows us remotely execute commands on another device remotely. Any data sent between the devices is encrypted when it's sent over a network such as the internet. Alright, deploying, just saying deploy, start it, how to do it, using SSH, log into your this is if I can actually, I don't need this. On Mac I can use my own terminal. I can actually connect to the SSH, but I'm not gonna do that because I don't want y'all to see my background and shit. It's pretty much just saying what if I did do it, what we'd be logging in as, which is tryhackme. I have logged in, whatever. Fuck, this should be lagging sometimes. Can you expect, huh? In the city, California. I'm got failed to connect to server, some shit. There we go. A majority of commands allow for arguments to be provided. These arguments are identified by the hyphen and certain keyword known as flags or switches. We'll later discuss how we can identify what commands allow for arguments to be provided and understanding what these do exactly. When using commands, unless otherwise specified, it's perform default behavior. For example, ls list contents of the working directory. However, hidden files are not shown. We can use flags and switches to extend the behavior of the commands. Using ls example informs us that there's only one folder named folder 1 as highlighted in the screenshot below. Note that the contents in the screenshot below are only example. They do ls, there's only a folder 1 in there. And then, however, after using the tac a argument short for all, we now suddenly have an output with few more files, such as hidden files. So you do ls tac a, which is for all, you get a hidden folder. Commands that accept these will have a tac help option. The option will list the possible options that commands accept provide. So this pretty much help pretty much just lets you know like what it does, like what's available to use, and then these are the abbreviation of them, so you don't have to type it fully. This option is in fact a formatted output, what is called the man page, short for manual, which contains documents for Linux commands and applications. The manual page are a great source of information, both systems, commands, and applications available on both Linux machines, which is accessible on the machine itself and online. To access documentation, we can use man command and then provide command. We can want to read the documentation using ls example. We can use man ls to view manual pages, ls like so. So you see they did man ls, just some info. Pretty much, yeah. Explore the manual page of the command. Guess we'll go and do this, right? Whatever. Let's just try man. What manual page do you want? For example, try man. Okay. So I did man and it told me to try man. So we have that. Let's try Q to quit that shit. And then we can do man ls. And pretty much just took us there directly. Right. What directional arrow keys will we use to navigate down from the manual page down? What flag would we use to display the output of a human readable way? So we see the answer, but let's move this down some so y'all can see actually. My fault, y'all, if y'all couldn't see. Let's go back to it. Man ls. And then we just can take a gander. I'm sure you can implement a grep to find it. I don't really want to do all that right now. We're just looking for human readable command. And when we found it, tac h is human readable. So that's too easy. File systems interactions continue. We cover some of those most fundamental commands when interacting with file systems on the Linux machine. For example, we cover how to list and find contents of folders using ls and find and navigate file system using cd. In the task, we are going to learn some more commands interacting with file system around. Create files and folders, move files, folders, delete files, folders. So you can look at all these commands here. Pause it if you want to. Pro tip: similarity using cat. We can provide full file paths. That is directory 1, directory 2. No for all of these commands. Take a quick gander. Create file, touch, mkdir. Okay. Creating files and folders. Creating files and folders on Linux, simple process. First, we'll cover creating a file, then touch commands. Take exactly one argument, the name one, give the file we create. For example, we can create the file note by using touch note. It is worth noting that touch simply creates a blank file. You would need to use commands like echo or text editors such as nano to add content to a blank file. So like in the previous video, if we did echo, it created the file and the text that was in there. But if you do touch, it's just going to create the file and no text in there. So yeah, touch note, ls, you have note now in there. This is a similar process for making a folder, which just involves the mkdir command again, providing the name. I want to assign the directory, for example, creating my directory using mkdir. So you do mkdir, naming in my directory, ls, folder. Alright, so yeah, touch note is going to create a file, but mkdir is going to create a folder. Removing files and folders. rm is extraordinary out of command that we covered so far. You can simply remove files by using let's actually make this like that. You can always go back to it. Remove files by using rm. However, you need to provide the tac switch along the side of the name of the directory you wish to remove. So they created a note up there, rm note. Now note is gone. Using rm recursively to remove a directory. So you need a private switch name directory. Okay, so for the directories, the directory they created, you're gonna have to do tac r to remove the directory, just because a directory is more bigger than a file. So I think that's just to Maybe like some type of safety feature. And you can see they did it. Copying and moving files, folders, CP, MV. Copying, moving files, importing, starting with CP. This command takes two arguments: the name of the existing file and the name we wish to assign the new file when copying. CP copies the entire content of the existing file into the new file in the screenshot below, and we're copying note 2 to note 2. So CP note 2 ls. So node 2 is the new file, node is the existing file, and all the data in node is now in node 2. So they both still exist, but you just copied it. But now you could delete the first node if you wanted to. Right? Moving files takes two arguments, just like command. However, rather than copying / creating new file, MV will merge or modify the second file that we provide as an argument. Not only you can use MV to move files to new folder, but you can also use MV to rename a file or a folder. For example, in the screenshot below, we're renaming the file node 2 to be named node 3. Node 3 will have the content of node 2. Okay, so they did MV node 2 to node 3. So now that's going to it's going to combine node 2 to node 3. So pretty much get rid of it. But anything in there is going to go to node 3. So now you don't have node 2 anymore. Determining file types. What often misleading, often catch people out making presumptions from files. So with the perfect or constants, maybe files usually have what is known as extensions to make this easier. For example, text files usually have extension of text, but this is not necessary. So far, the files we have used in our examples haven't had an extension. Without knowing the concept of why the file is there, we don't really know its purpose. Enter file command. The command takes one argument. For example, we use file to confirm whether or not the note file in our example is indeed a text file, like the file note. Okay. So you do file note, and it tells you it's ASCII text. How would you create a file named new note? Touch new note. Too easy, right? Touch new note. On the deploy machine with file name, I need to load the machine back up. You just do show split screen. It's gonna connect a little. Don't want to give you all the answers. Alright. On the deploy machine, what is the file type of unknown in tryhackme's home directory? So just do pwd root file type and unknown ls in tryhackme's home directory. Do lsu. So I'm back, y'all. I figured out. So whole point of this room was SSH. I guess since I hopped on the machine, like it blew over my head. This is how you log into SSH, right? SSH tryhackme. Earlier in the vid when I skipped over this and I said I wasn't gonna do it, you need to do it. bro, it just like flew over my head, honestly. So you're gonna do SSH, the username, which is tryhackme, then at your IP address. You're gonna do yes. Now once the password, which is tryhackme. Oh my god. Now we can do ls, and it's there, bro. Like I'm going through this whole directory and like just like the normal machine directory, and I cannot find the fucking unknown one. I'm going through the whole directory. I wasted so much time, bro. You have to load up SSH. I wasted so much time, bro. Like mental mistakes, bro. Like I needed to load up SSH because when I did this before, I was on my Mac and I used my Mac as terminal. I am still on my Mac, but I used my Mac as terminal and I did the SSH. But since I'm on the virtual machine, I assumed it automatically did it, but it doesn't automatically do it. So that's on me. And then where were we on? If we file unknown and wants to know what type of file unknown is, unknown one. Did I spell it wrong? I spelled it wrong. See? I'm telling y'all, bro. Simple mistakes. Bro, and then I spelled file wrong. Bro. It's actually insane. Oh my god. It's fucking ace text. How would we move the file from my file to the directory, my folder? MV, my file, my folder. What are the contents of this file? We're just gonna do cat and unknown. Hello, tryhackme. That's what it says. Okay. Well, clearly not the answer they want. They want us to do. Let's do the MV first. Oh, that wasn't even the file. I I just put in the wrong file. The flag is THM file systems. I know. I hope my shit wasn't covering. Bro, this is what I'd be saying though, bro. It's like little mistakes and like, bro, like I wasn't doing it wrong, bro. Cause I swear I searched that whole fucking terminal for that fucking file. That shit was not there. As you would have already found out by now, certain files or folders were previously explored. Some commands that can be used to determine what access we have. Where leads us in our previous task, we learned how to extend the use of commands through flags and switches. Take, for example, ls command, which lists the contents of the directory. When using tac-l with switch, we can see the 10 columns such as screenshot below. However, we're only interested in the first column. ls tac-lh. Although intimidating, these 3 columns are very important. Determining certain characteristics of a file folder, whether or not it have been we have access to. A file folder can have a couple characteristics that determine both what actions are allowed, what user group has the ability to perform, given such the following: read, write, execute. The great thing about Linux is that permissions can go so granularly. That while it's a user technically owns a file, if the permission has been set, then a group of users can also have either the same or a different set of permissions to the exact same file without affecting the file owner itself. Let's put this in real world context. The system user that runs a web server must have permissions to read and write files for effective web applications. However, companies such as web hosting companies will have you want to allow their customers to upload their own file for their website without being the web server system user, compromising the security of every other customer. We'll learn the commands necessary to switch between users. Switching between users on Linux install is easy work thanks to the su command. Unless you're a root user, you are using root permission through sudo, then you're required to know the 2 things to facilitate in the transition of users. The user we wish to switch to, the user's password. Su command takes a couple of switches that may be relevant to you. For example, X command once you log in or specify specific shell to use. I encourage you read the man page for the Su to find out more. However, we come to tac-l or tac login switch. Simply provide tac-l switch to Su. We'll start the shell more and similar to the actual user login to the system. We inherit a lot more properties of the newer user, that is, environment variables and the likes. Alright, so SU, they switch to user 2, right? So they're on tryhackme. They put in the password. Now they're on user 2 and can access all their files. Alright. We're now using TAC-L. New sessions has dropped us. SU TAC-L user 2 password PWD where we are. After using TAC-L, our new sessions has dropped us into the home directory of the users automatically. Okay. On the dual input machine, who's the owner of important? Oh shit. Let's change the directory. ls. We have important. Well. The owner of important is SU user 2, right? User 2. What would the command to be to switch to the user 2? We can do SU user 2. Password is just gonna be tryhackme. Should be. Okay, what's the password? Right. Okay. Okay, the password's right here. Now switch to the user using the password. All right. If you click the up arrow, it actually puts in your other previous commands, so you don't have to retype it. Quick tip: user 2. Boom. Now we're in here. Take a quick look. Nothing special. Output the contents of important. What is the flag? And we can do tab. Remember what I told you on the last video, because that's one thing that starts with I. So I just can put I then tab and it pops up. THMSN user 2, right? Too easy. The root directory is one of the most important root directories on your system. The etc. folder, short for etc. Okay. is a commonplace location to store file systems that are used by your operating systems. For example, the sudoers file highlighted in the screenshot below contains a list of users and groups that have permissions to run sudo or set the commands as the root user. Also highlighted below are the passwords and shadow files. There are 2 files for special Linux as they show you how system stores the passwords, and for each user in encrypted formatting called SHA-512. Some rooms on that. I just simple ls /var. This var directory, with the var being short for variable data, is one of the main root folders found on Linux install. The folder stores the data that frequently accessed or written by service application running on the system. For example, log files from running service applications are written here, var log, or other data, and is not necessarily associated with a specific user. That is database and the link. /root. Unlike the /home directory, the /root folder is actually the home for the root system users. Isn't anything more to this folder other than just understanding that this is a home directory for the root user. But it's worth mentioning as the logical presumption is that the user would have their data in the directory such as /home/root by default, /tmp temporary. This unique root directory found on Linux install, short for temporary, is volatile and is used to store data that's only needed to be accessed once or twice, similar to memory on your computer. Once the computer sorry the contents folder are cleared out. What's useful for us is pen testing that any user can write in this folder by default, meaning once we have access to the machine, serves as a good place to store things like enumeration scripts. What is the directory path that we would expect logs to be stored in? Stores data free asked by servers. So /var/log, because data and then log. What root directory is similar to how RAM computer works? TMP. Name the home directory of the root user. Yeah, just /root. Now apply your learning and navigate through these directories on the deployed. We'll just take a quick look. Actually, there's nothing here. Whatever. Conclusion, nice work. This room was quite theory heavy and covered quite a range of fundamentals in getting you familiar with Linux. To quickly recap, this room taught you how to connect to Linux machines remotely using SSH. Whole main point of the room, and I forgot to do at the beginning, so make sure I do that. Advancing use of commands by providing flag switches. We can go to learn about these for command man page. Some more commands that you'll frequently be using in interactive file systems. A brief introduction of file permissions, switching users, a summary paragraph importance of root directory on Ubuntu Linux install, and how we may be able to use data to store within these. I encourage you to go through these room again twice to gain some familiarity with the concept. After all, practice makes perfect. Yep, right. And then I'm about to get the part 3 up going, so hope y'all enjoyed part 2, and yeah.